All right then. I think this is the last talk for the day, and we have Lloyd who will give us a Vaporview update.
Awesome. Hey guys, so my name is Lloyd Ramseyer, and as you know, I'm the developer of Vaporview. So I'm going to be giving a one-year update for Vaporview. So if you watched my talk last year, it's just going to be an update from that talk. But if you didn't, I'm going to give you a quick summary of it. So this all started when I was like debugging this like MCU inside of an FPGA, which is like with a waveform dump, which is kind of a long story in and of itself. But I thought, okay, you know, these are just VCD files. Like I should probably, like, there's got to be a VS Code extension for it. Turns out that there was, and they were charging 15 bucks for it. And I was like, okay, somebody needs to put these guys out of business. So I took that upon myself. I came up with the name Vaporview, and I got to work. There were like many months in between this because there was like a lot of like, oh, should I do this? Like, can I do this? This is a lot of work. So I made a minimum viable product. I released that to the VS Code marketplace, and then it was okay. It was very basic. So then I converted the file parser to WebAssembly. I wrote a better looking renderer, and I worked on an API for interoperability with other extensions. And that's about where we left off. And the reason that I wanted to be interoperable with other extensions is because this is built for VS Code. So why VS Code? I know I mentioned this last year, but just to refresh everyone who hasn't seen last year's presentation, it's the most popular IDE. It supports standalone mode and remote SSH mode, which is great because then that means you don't have to use VNC, and I do not like using VNC or VDIs. It's got terminal integration, so I can add terminal links, which I do. So like when you're like debugging your like UVM log and you're like, this error happened at this time, you can just like click on that link and it places a marker. It's very convenient. I hated having, like when I was using Verdi, having to like go and type the time in. And copy paste never worked properly in a VDI. So it's got a great extension ecosystem, so more on that later, but it's got a bunch of popular forks like Windsurf, Cursor, RIP, Anti-Gravity, and it supports custom UI extensions, unlike some other IDEs. I'm looking at you, Zed. And it's also well-designed and nice to use. I wanted to work. I wanted to follow VS Code design language, look nice, feel natural, and be extendable. I wanted it to be simulator and HDL agnostic. Like, this is just a waveform viewer, guys. Like it's got to do one thing and one thing, but like really well. So the user experience and like all of that, that functionality of just the waveform viewer component was really important to me because as far as like all the other stuff that goes on with how you do debug of your simulations and your designs, that's, you know, for other people to focus on. And of course, I'm happy to contribute to those extensions, but Vaporview is my baby. So updates since last year. So little life update, Wavetrace VCD is dead. And the two greatest cartoon characters are here to celebrate with me. So one of the reasons why I'm like celebrating this is because like, and I kind of want to talk about why I was so frustrated with the fact that Wavetrace VCD charged money for their work. I mean, you guys here know that there's a huge difference in the culture of software engineering versus hardware engineering, and that like in hardware engineering, like everything is proprietary, and we're here to hopefully undo some of that. So like for somebody to bring that antiquated mindset of keeping everything proprietary and like charging money for it and bring that into the like software engineering, like VS Code's more kind of software engineer type tool. Most of my hardware engineer code workers like did not really know about VS Code or how to use it. So that's maybe a bad metric, but so for somebody to bring that antiquated mindset into the VS Code marketplace, I guess that's what really annoyed me, and that's where I was like, okay, these guys need to be put out of business. So updates since last year of like actual features. I added first class support for VS Code SSH. That always worked, but you had to like configure it. Now it's just like default configuration. It just works out of the box. I added signal groups, so you can like group signals and expand and collapse groups. That was annoying because it turned everything into a tree data structures problem. Multi-signal selection and editing. Again, these are UX things, but they weren't in last year. Custom signal height, which is great for analog signals. I also made a bunch of updates to the netlist view. So I removed the checkboxes. I added drag and drop support, so you can actually drag and drop into the viewer. I added inline parameters, and then a whole bunch of like miscellaneous UI and UX stuff that I just caught and fixed and other people pointed out. And then I also have version 1.5, which that was released recently. I relicensed it to AGPL3, and that was deliberate. That was to fend off any EDA vendors wanting to fork the project and use it. They can still fork it and use it, but then their forks have to be open source, which means that they have, if they want to support like FSDB or WLF or SHM, they got to go and open source that. Like, what benefit, if you're working in legacy EDA, what benefit does it give you to keep your waveform dump formats proprietary? I don't understand. I added undo redo support. That was a huge pain point for me. Custom signals, so you can take like a bit vector and split it into like smaller, like a 64-bit signal and just take one byte out of it and make your own custom signal. A bunch of number formats, too many to remember. And I also made it color theme responsive. The VS Code color theme, like whoever designed the color theme, like how that's done, specifically the semantic tokens in VS Code, like they probably were the people who did MS Teams, because it's terrible. I also added netlist search, and then again, I think I accidentally copied that bullet point. But yes, there were more UI UX fixes. For future work, there's really not much to be done. I want to add more value annotations. I also want to give users the option to use WebGL for a renderer, because right now it uses Canvas, which I do most of my development on Mac OS. Turns out that HTML5 Canvas is really, really good on Mac OS, and it's not so good on Windows. And I know this because my personal PC has a RTX 3080, and it's way slower than my battery-powered laptop. So WebGL, I know that that's much faster, and that's on my to-do list. Other than that, I'm kind of out of ideas. So if you guys have ideas, feel free to talk to me about some ideas you have. And yes, I know transactions. I need to discuss further on that one. So more on the roadmap. So as I mentioned, Vaporview is designed for the IDE. It's not designed to be a standalone tool. So originally, I wanted to put Wavetrace VCD out of business, but if you guys have had the displeasure of having to use Verdi, then you know. So I want, like, again, one of the big things that I really want is for this API to actually work. So for other extensions, for it to interoperate with other extensions for doing RTL linking and tracing, and then also, well, like whatever else you'd want to use a waveform viewer for. I don't know, if you're debugging like firmware. I showed off the signal value links API last year. But I also want to acknowledge some contributors. One of them who's actually here in the audience. And they've definitely added some really cool features to Vaporview, and I want to thank them because, as Franz said, that it's like, it's about building a community of open source developers, and that's really important. So shout out to them. And also, I want to acknowledge some partner extensions. Funny enough, the developers of both of these extensions are also in the audience. So SV Pathfinder, that's and the Slang server, which is also really, really cool. It's developed by Hudson River Trading, and it's like kind of impressive that EDA tools are so bad that even the quants are productive to society. I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone in the audience by that statement. All right, so for this last section, I want to talk about user experience. Now, I understand that if you work in legacy EDA, that this is probably a foreign concept to you, but stay with me because I think that we'll have some stuff to learn from this, all of us. So the truth is, I actually really hated debugging stuff using waveforms. I know that I talk about Verdi, I talk terrible things about it, but like, I used to actually avoid doing debug using waveforms. Like I used to, sometimes for short simulations, I would just go and rewrite stuff out in the UVM log and rerun the simulation just to avoid having to open up the waveform viewer because I hated it so much. It was something that was like really high friction. You had to open up the VNC or the VDI, and if you had a VNC rant on your bingo card, congratulations, because I freaking hate VNCs and VDIs. If you are a CAD manager at a company and you are forcing your engineers to use VNCs and VDIs, like I would recommend like a career in finance or like civil engineering or something like that, because it would be much more beneficial to society if you did that. I do not, It's so bad. So on this last slide, or I think this is my last slide, I don't remember. So let's talk about friction and kind of like some of the things that I've observed in, and this is more of like PSA to the community for those of you who are working on simulation tools, who are working on other sorts of tools adjacent to like to the sort of debug. So talking about friction, I wanted like one of my guiding principles with Vaporview, and this is more than just like design principles, but like things that I really like am anal about is reducing friction in the user experience. So like one of the things that I tell people is like compute and disk space are cheap, but attention is expensive. So and then I listed a bunch of things that cost attention. So one of the things that I was talking about with, for those of you who work in simulators, I don't care if my simulation takes like a little bit longer to run if I have a waveform dump file that loads instantaneously. Because when you're running a long simulation, that doesn't consume user attention. Like when a simulation is running, I am like getting coffee or chatting with my coworker, doom scrolling or something like that. I'm not paying attention to my computer, or I'm doing some other work task, hopefully. But when I get the simulation results back and I find that there's an error, I want to go and debug it. I don't want to have to go and do a whole bunch of mindless things like, okay, open up this, this application, wait for it to load, then go find the file in the application in the open menu, and then go find the configuration file or go find all the instance paths that I need to load in, copy the time, I don't want to have to do that kind of thing. That's like just very high friction. To me, it's very mentally fatiguing. That was one of the things that I really noticed or really wanted to have when I built Vaporview, is just being able to double click and open up my waveform dump like instantaneously. I wanted to be able to go and use terminal links to when I'm debugging through the UVM log. And I wanted things to load very quickly, even large simulations. And I know that the FST file format is not perfect. There are some issues and some ways that it can be improved. And I've spoken with people in that community about my concerns. But yeah, that's really a huge PSA to those of you who are working on simulation tools. But yeah, repetitive tasks. Again, this is more of a guiding principle for me as a developer. I try to make things as easy as possible to. I don't want to say to automate, but like give nice key bindings for stuff like that. Also, too much information and too many configuration options. I don't like that. So I like to. I read this thing on opinionated design: make the easy things easy and the hard things possible. And I really like that. And I have a bunch of configuration options in Vaporview, but they're like not like I want a good default set of configuration options. So let's take a look at it in action really quickly. I just want to show off. I did update the renderer so that I use this more outline-looking bit vector renderer. And guys, before we go, what is stopping you from debugging your waveforms? Wait, let me find the color theme. What is stopping you from debugging your waveforms like this? I just like that. I think that's really cool, and that's kind of how I want to end the presentation. So, any questions? Whoops.
So do you have a Verdi theme so I can look at home?
You just got to make that in VS Code. I think somebody actually made a Verdi color theme, but don't quote me on that.
Do you have any designs on running Vaporview outside of VS Code, or is that antithetical to the project?
So it runs in anti-gravity and Cursor, but I don't think that's...
Like as a standalone application?
No, I don't. As a standalone application, I would recommend Surfer. It's pretty great. But I do have a, like, if you wanted to go and hack that, like, you could create it. The thing is, VS Code does the netlist hierarchy viewing in a VS Code tree view. So you would have to go and rewrite something to do that. But yeah, it should be pretty easy to hack, or I shouldn't say hack, to fork and build, because all of the VS Code related stuff in the web view is confined to one file, and so you just would need to recreate those interfaces. So it is possible, and like I made it relatively, I made it as easy as possible.
So VNC and VDIs are out, but no machines are in? No machine?
Sorry, what?
No machine. It's NX client.
Sorry, I do not follow. Oh, okay. I don't know, maybe.
You never tried it, you gotta try it.
I like using this tool.
Thank you.
This might be an FST issue, but if you have arrays, they're blasted by their index. So when you have to scroll down through the entire list of your array in the netlist view, as opposed to just dragging it in and then having like a click to expand the array. Are you?
Oh yeah, no, I know that's. Let's talk offline about that, because that is a huge pain point that a lot of the folks who work on FSTs have discussed.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Right, one more question.
Hi, yeah, so I guess I also hate Verity, but in pursuing
Thank
I guess, are you thinking about going past the waveform viewing into things like coverage analysis and other file format ingestion other than just waves, or is it something where really it's trying to attack the debuggability rather than like the larger system implications that Verity has, and things like live debug that inherently hook into simulators?
Yeah, so Vaporview is meant to be a standalone waveform viewer, but when I said that I was going after Verity, that's like the API integration with other extensions, so that there are other extensions. I know that the Slang server is doing, they're working on like RTL linking, and that I think it works in Vaporview. And like I've seen dev builds where it works. So, but yeah, so it would be with like partner extensions and stuff like that. I actually don't work on them actively. Well, I don't really work on them right now. I would love to contribute to them when I have free time. But yeah, so yeah, Vaporview is more designed to make it possible for those kinds of tools like coverage viewing and RTL linking and tracing to exist and kind of interoperate in a seamless way.
Very cool project. So at University of California, Santa Cruz, we have easily a couple hundred people using Vaporview.
That's scary.
And yeah, and they because like we'll be like, oh, install Surfer, but then sometimes like they'll come across this one instead, but then like word gets out. So Surfer team, you got to work on your animations, make them as clean as this one. Just
I can help with that.
yeah,
I'm happy to help.
Sorry, this is a long question.
We like Surfer too.
Yeah, right. Surfer's fantastic. The other question was if these couple hundred students wanted to offer suggestions, do you prefer like GitHub issues, or what's the best way that you can receive feedback?
Yeah, I mean, GitHub issues, they can email me, they can do whatever. That's another thing is like the people who have voiced their opinion on Vaporview have also been really helpful. You might think that you're annoying if you're saying, hey, this doesn't work. No, it's actually really helpful. And that's one of the cool things about open source development is like when you go and report a bug or you fix a bug and you're like doing something super in the weeds for hours on end, like when I'm up till like really late at night or really late into the morning fixing some bug, I know that like I'm fixing it for lots and lots of people. And that even though it's like, yeah, I'm gonna lose sleep tonight or that night, but like I'm fixing this dumb bug in Vaporview that's going to benefit a lot of people. And that's what I love about open source.
Final question. Well, then I guess we say thanks to the speaker. And according